It's the year 1953 and Alfred joined Hinds just got 12 years in prison. Alfred was very sad about this and wanted to leave as quickly as possible. Just like we said, it's the 1950s, and prisons at that time didn't have the technology we have today. Technology like different types of sensors, cameras, and all types of security features in a prison. Alfred very easily enters the laundry room, finds some regular clothes and puts them on, and easily leaves the prison. With his confidence and the regular clothes he was wearing, it made it so nobody was suspicious of him. He was on the run for 1 year, and they eventually caught him again, and they take him to another prison. You might not believe it, but he escapes this prison as well. But this time, he doesn't really tell a story on how he escaped, and after escaping, he gets to Ireland. 2 years later, they arrest him in Ireland for the third time. When the Irish catch him, they notice that this guy is something special. First of all, he's very smart because he escaped from prison twice. They gave Alfred an IQ test and they noticed that he scored a 148, which pretty much makes him a genius, and that is why they make a deal with him. They say if you work for the British government, you don't have to go to prison anymore. He says yes and accepts the offer. Until 1991, Alfred worked for the British government and he died. Alfred is known as one of the smartest people that escaped prison. But we're not talking about people like him, because today we have a very special video and we want to have some fun as well. And this is a thank you for you guys watching our videos. We really appreciate you guys watching our videos and subscribing. In a country like the United States, which has more than 2 million inmates, the statistic shows that around 2,000 people escape per year. These are the people that actually escape, but the amount of people that try to escape is much higher than the ones that actually escape. But we're not looking for those. We're looking for the ones that had the funniest way of escaping prison. Kenneth Burnham, because of burglary, got 5 years in prison. This guy would go by his cell window and would watch the people that are getting released on that day. And he would get very depressed and think to himself, why can't that be me? Days passed, and until one day, one guy that was being released the next day started talking with Kenneth. And they start talking how he's gonna get released the next day. Kenneth all of a sudden gets an idea. He says, why don't I impersonate him? He steals all his paperwork and he waits by the door until the police calls his name. When they name the other guy, he goes up front and says it's me. He goes into the office, does all the paperwork, but on the last piece of paper, they see a picture of the inmate, and they notice the person that's supposed to be releasing is a black person. Why is this guy white? They bring him back and ask him, what are you trying to do? He confesses and says he was trying to escape. They take him to court again, and for trying to escape from prison, he gets 2 years added to his sentence. When he came back, the other inmates said his face was very funny to look at. For the next escape, let's go to Brazil. You've probably seen a lot of prison escapes in movies. Some escape from the vents. One guy digs a tunnel with a teaspoon. Someone escaped from the toilet, or other types of ways. This guy seen some movies. This Brazilian guy tried to escape from the sewer that connects to his toilet. He shaves the pipe and goes inside, and he goes about 2 meters deep, but unfortunately, he gets stuck in the sewer. And these are actual photos when they're trying to pull him out. This guy's idea was insane, because it's one of the funniest ways someone tried to escape prison. If you're trying to see the disgusting footage when they're trying to pull him out of the hole, I'll put a link in the description and you could check it out. Andrew Wilson is one smart inmate. Andrew was very impatient, and he was waiting for the court to sign his release form. Since he was supposed to be released, they didn't really care about him, so he was working outside of the prison. When he was working, a dumpster truck comes inside the prison and starts picking up the trash. Andrew looks at the truck and thinks to himself, this is about to leave. He was so impatient that he didn't realize he's supposed to be releasing very soon. That is why he gets in the truck and escapes. He was so impatient, he still had the prison clothes on. When he gets to the city, he exits the truck, and when the first police officer sees a prison escapee, they immediately pull him over and arrest him. They take him to the same prison. The same day he enters prison, they ask him, why did you escape? You were supposed to get released very soon. Your release form arrived today as well, and here's the letter. But we can't release you because you escaped. We have to take you back to the court. Andrew got 2 more years in prison, and hopefully that taught him something about patience. For stealing, James Russel was imprisoned in the state of Washington. The prison that Russel was located in was called the Olympic Correction Center. One of the easiest prisons in the US, a prison that you could easily escape or bring anything you want to the yard. They don't send dangerous people there. Russel very easily escapes, but it's located in a farmland, and there's no cities nearby. There are different farms and very little homes. Russel wanted to change his clothes and enters the first house he sees. He hid a very special house because the house belonged to one of the guards in the same prison. He was at home and noticed there's an escapee outside his window. He calls the police and they immediately arrest him. Russel did something very stupid because they were not going to take him back to the easy prison, and they converted him from an easy prison to a very harsh maximum security prison, and you can't even move in those, and the inmates you have to deal with are all true criminals like murderers and rapists. As you know, prisons are a new thing. They've been a thing for thousands of years, but back in the day it was no joke. If anybody tried to escape, they'll bring the executioner and they'll chop the escapee's head off. So everybody learned to not do that again. But we had an inmate that was a king and wasn't afraid of anything. Griffith ap Llywelyn, a Welsh king. As you know, Wales is a part of the United Kingdom. For conspiracy, Griffith was arrested and was sent to prison. It's the Middle Ages, and he's on the top floor of a castle held prisoner. And the windows were open, so you could have jumped out. But it was 4 to 5 stories, so if he jumped, he was dead. He came up with the idea, all his clothes, blanket, sheets, or whatever he could find, he made them straight and tied them together. He throws the rope down and starts to climb down. But the rope he made was not meant to hold his weight, and that is why it rips and Griffith falls to his death. Michael Coleman and Lester Burns were 2 prisoners, and they were getting transferred to a different prison. They get on the prison bus and head that way. One of the prisoners pass out and they start to have a seizure. The guards get nervous and tell the driver to go by the hospital. When they get there, they take the prisoner out and take him inside. When Michael and Lester notice that the guards are gone and only the bus driver is there, they attack the driver, knock him out, and get behind the wheel and start to escape. The other prisoners got nervous and they were mad because they got themselves into something very bad. And that is why on the road, when they stopped by a restaurant, one of the other prisoners goes and calls the police. And under 5 minutes, the police show up. The other prisoners didn't do anything wrong, but Michael and Lester, each of them got 5 years in prison for doing something like this. The next genius is called Clauvino Da Silva. This guy was a drug dealer that had life in prison. His 19-year-old daughter comes to see him in prison, and Da Silva says, "I need some help. Next time you come over, bring me a mask, women's clothes, a wig, glasses." His daughter says okay. The next time she comes, she brings all this. Da Silva puts all his clothes on, puts on the mask, puts the wig on, and impersonates him as his daughter and tries to leave the prison. But they caught him right before he hit the exit, and they ask him, "Why are you doing this? Why do you look like this?" They basically slapped him back into prison. His daughter had his prison clothes on and was supposed to go inside the prison as her dad, and obviously she got arrested right there. His daughter got very lucky because she only got 1 year for trying to help an inmate escape. But the last story we're gonna tell went to a prison that was impossible to escape, and is one of the most famous prisons of all time. In the whole history of Alcatraz, 14 people tried to escape. 5 of them were lost. It's not obvious what happened to them. Either they actually escaped or the sharks ate them. 8 of them, before they could escape, were caught. But one person actually successfully escaped, and he actually got himself to shore. John Paul Scott, a bank robber. He had 30 years in prison and wanted to find any way to escape from it. This guy jumps in the water without any equipment and started to swim towards San Francisco. From Alcatraz to the shore of San Francisco, it's about 3.5 kilometers, and it's a bay which has very harsh waters, and swimming in there is very hard to do. In history, you can't find anybody with no equipment to swim from Alcatraz to San Francisco except John Paul Scott. This guy put all his heart and soul into the swim, and he gets himself to the shore, but he had nothing left, no breath, and his heart was blowing out of his chest. And that is why when he gets to shore, he basically dies. He got to shore, but he didn't have the energy to stay alive. This is what you call dedication. He tried till his last breath.